Welcome to Lipstick Attitude, hosted by Dr. Elizabeth King, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, author, and motivational speaker, specializing in trauma and women's mental health, and Yvonne Haase, psychotherapist and coach specializing in relationships, couples, and women's issues. This show is your dose of inspiration, information, and laughter. In each episode, Dr. King and Yvonne bring you hacks, tips, and inspiring stories to help you live a successful life. So ladies, grab your lipstick. It's time to do this. The Lipstick Attitude podcast is powered by Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation, a nonprofit movement to empower women and children from all walks of life to be resilient, self-confident, and purposeful leaders through education, mentorship, and community outreach. To learn more, visit sslwomen.org. Please note that this show is intended to empower and educate. It is not meant to be utilized as a substitute for individual therapy.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Elizabeth King, and this is the Lipstick Attitude with my co-host, Yvonne Haase. Hello, Yvonne.
Hello, hello.
I am so excited for this show. Are you?
I am totally excited. I don't know if you and I together have enough energy for this guest.
I don't know either, but ladies, you're in for a treat. Get ready for Mr. Andy Henriquez. Yvonne, take it away.
I got to tell you, so I had the honor of meeting Andy when he was brave enough to participate as one of the men in Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation for the Men in the Hot Seat. They're crazier than crazy, funnier than funny, smarter than smart. I don't know, or a little bit of mix of all of the above, because he came in as a speaker also, pumped up the energy in the room, lit the entire room up, and then sat his butt in the stool and let me drill down to his inner core of being a man and all the questions that the ladies had.
Oh, it was so much fun.
So much fun. He is also known as a master storyteller, and he is the founder of Master Storyteller Academy, which is a business storytelling coach. He's a business storytelling coach. I can't read today. Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday.
He's a
keynote coffee, girlfriend.
I'm late. He is a keynote speaker and author of the game-changing book, Show Up for Your Life. And let me tell you, when he pops into the room, you will have no choice but to show up for your life. He is a sought-after speaker. He's been on Huffington Post, Black Enterprise, Entrepreneur Magazine, several national television appearances. He's got a fabulous list of clients: the Office Depot Foundation, Accenture, Pratt Whitney, NASA, Bacardi, one of my personal faves, and of course, Google, to name a few. And honestly, Andy's just an all-around fun human being. So welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you so much for having me. I've so been looking forward to this.
Yes, it's taken us a while to be able to coordinate this. You had to go and have an accident last time we were going to record.
Yeah, right?
Like you really needed to get out of recording.
You could have just said, not today.
Not today.
Yeah, I remember we were having that conversation. You guys were like, really, Andy? You had to get in a car accident to just avoid coming and speaking to our amazing community. But I'm here now. I'm ready.
You're ready. It took us a while, but you are here. Thank God. And on a serious note, I'm so happy that you're okay. And your daughter, we were all in prayers for you guys. And here you are. So this is awesome. So
thank you.
Super happy to have you. So for those people out there that don't know you, Andy, can you take a few minutes and just tell our audience about your story? I've heard parts of your story. His story is hilarious. But take it away, Andy. Let us know who you are.
Yeah, my parents are, immigrants. They came to this country in pursuit of that good old American dream. And one of the things they kept telling me, they were like, Andy, the key to success in this country, you got to go to school, get a good education, and then get out there and get a good job. And so, I've spoken to enough audiences to know that you don't only have to have grown up in a Caribbean household to have heard something like that. So I followed the script. I went to school at Florida State University. I got my undergraduate degree in accounting. I got my master's degree in corporate accounting. I studied like crazy for the CPA exam. And then I landed a job with one of the big four public accounting firms, a company by the name of PricewaterhouseCoopers. But here's what the crazy thing is, right? I completely followed the script. I'm working with this amazing company. I got every reason to do well. And yet and still, I'm feeling as if my life is following this same routine daily. And I was waking up every single day to the sound of an alarm clock. I'm jumping out of my bed, I'm getting into my car, and I'm fighting traffic to get to a place in which I knew that something inside was saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. And I'm pretty sure that there are some people who are listening in right now that maybe perhaps you are showing up to a job, you're showing up to a relationship, you're showing up to a set of circumstances that you're saying to yourself, there has got to be more than this. And for about a year and a half, I thought about taking a chance on myself. I thought about becoming an entrepreneur. I thought about becoming a speaker. I thought about becoming a coach. And for a year and a half, here's what I would do. I would talk myself into it and then talk myself right back out of it, Yvonne and Dr. Elizabeth. And I think we've all done that, right? There's something you want to do. Like you talked yourself into it and then no one else had to. Like you talked yourself out of it. And maybe some of you who are listening in right now, you could relate to that. Like you wanted to write the book, you were going to start the business, you were going to, go on the trip, the vacation, whatever. You talked yourself into it and then you talked yourself out of it. I did that for a year and a half. And then for me, my defining moment was like December of 2004. And I love to say this quote, Kevin Costner, one of his movies, I'm not talking about Bodyguard, there's another not so popular movie, right? Not so popular movie called Tin Cup, that he has a line. Here's what he said. He said, when the defining moment comes, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. And so for me, December of 2004 became my defining moment because that was the moment that I decided to move forward, even though I was fearful, even though I didn't exactly have the game plan all laid out, but I just knew that I couldn't do that anymore. And I know most of the audience right now are women listening, and I know you've been in a relationship or a certain set of circumstances where you're like, I don't know what's next. I just know I can't do that no more. I can't do that anymore. And so that was when I made the transition. I left corporate America in pursuit of my goals and my dreams. And I ended up getting a phenomenal mentor in the speaking industry. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've had the opportunity now, as you said, to speak for awesome companies like Office Depot, Pratt Whitney, Accenture, Google. And most importantly, the thing that I love that I get to do now is I get to work with entrepreneurs, I get to work with corporations, I get to work with everyday individuals and empower them to be able to tell their story about the circumstances that they've overcome, the setbacks that they've been able to make a comeback from, and just helping them to have the tools to be able to connect with their customers and their clients and the people that they're looking to influence. So I know I've come a long way from being a number cruncher, an accountant. I can't
even pretend to imagine you as a number cruncher. You probably went in there and lit up the room like every time you got to work.
Total different experience from
totally different, right?
Yeah. I'm really interested when you talk about, what you got into, and your story is so powerful. And I see the word behind you that says story. And I know this is your passion when you spoke at our retreat about sharing your story. Why is it so important for you? And I'm asking this because our community, Andy, if you don't know this, our community is about sharing our stories. That's what we really encourage women to do. And so I'm so fascinated that you've made a career out of storytelling. So why do you think this builds connections and creates influencing other people with just storytelling? What's behind that?
Yeah, what really just breaks my heart is that, there's so many entrepreneurs that when they are talking about their products and their services, they're talking about their nonprofit, they're talking about the things that they're passionate about, somehow, some way, they seem to sort of dismiss their story. In other words, they seem to believe that their story is not important, when really, if you ask me, it's the secret sauce, right? It's the thing that really allows ourselves to separate ourselves from the competition. It's the thing that allows us to connect with people really on a heart level. And the reason why I say that is because for every single one of us, if you look at the industry we're in, chances are that there's other people who do something similar, right? I'm not the only storytelling coach out there. For those of us who are, professionals or whatever industry you're in, you're probably not the only one with that type of business. And so if you get caught up with trying to separate yourself by just highlighting your products, just highlighting your services, what happens is it gets really, really easy for you to get lost in the noise. And so I believe that the thing that ultimately separates us is not just our products and our services, and it's not just our views and our perspective and our content, but it's who we are behind those words. It's our own unique stories. And at the end of the day, for every single one of us, the people that we're looking to attract to our businesses are people just like us, right? And we are hardwired for stories. Like we are absolutely just seeking connection. And stories just allow you to be able to connect with people on a completely different level. And so one of the things that I just try to get people to understand is that when it comes to our products and our services and the businesses that we have, like, stop trying to sell people on the airplane. You say, well, Andy, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is, like, you know, when you are looking to go on a vacation or you're going to go book a flight, you know, when's the last time that you cared about what was the thread count on the carpet you're walking on? When's the last time you cared, right, Yvonne or Dr. Elizabeth, on the material that the seat was on? At the end of the day, what only thing that you really cared about was making it to your destination. And so the story has the ability of helping us to be able to paint the destination for the people that we want to work with, right? The story has a way of getting people really out of their head and really moving them to that heart area that I know is so important, that heart area that really gets people to lean in and to take action. And so one of the things that I just think is critical, like, if you want to make meaningful impact as an entrepreneur, if you want people to remember you, if you want to say something that's worthy of being repeated, and if you want people to respond to what you have to share, you've got to find a way to put that within the context of a story. Because the stories at the end of the day is what is going to connect with people emotionally. And it's what's going to help them ultimately to be like, you know what? I like her. There's something about her that I feel like I can connect with, that resonates with me, that gets them to lean in and say, you know what? Maybe now, since I feel a connection to her, I want to learn a little more about her business. I want to learn a little more about her products. I want to learn a little more about her services. So the story is like, it's the magnet. It's the thing that draws people in. And then as we draw them in, we direct them to our products, our services, and the things that we have to offer.
So, Andy, I have to segue into this question, because so oftentimes we work with women in our practice as therapists, and we hear this story all the time from women saying, nobody cares about my story. My story is not important enough.
Every day, all
right,
day.
Yvonne? So I just have to jump in here and ask, you know, how do we get through to women and men, whoever is listening to this program, to understand the value of their story? How do you address that question?
Yeah, you know, here's the thing. I think that the reason why we oftentimes say, well, nobody really cares about my story, is because it's something my mentor told me a long time ago. It's this idea that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Like, sometimes we're so close to our story that we tend to undervalue the story. But we don't realize that when we look at the people who've had the biggest influence in our lives, and we think about major influencers, oftentimes the thing that's drawn us in, and I would even challenge everybody right now who's listening in, think about somebody who's played like a really significant role in your life, and they have really influenced you. And I'm not talking about like 1 week worth of influence, 1 month worth of influence. I'm talking about they've influenced you over the years. What you will often find is that those people who've had the greatest amount of influence in your life, at some point you have heard their story. Not only have you heard their story once, but you have heard it multiple times. All major influencers have what we like to refer to as a signature story. This is the story that they lead with that allows people to really feel a connection, and it resonates with them. You know, many of us remember or may have heard of a lady by the name of Mel Robbins. She came out with a book called The 5 Second Rule. You know, Mel kicked off that entire book in her entire career, just sharing this story that she was sharing over and over again. She had gotten this TV deal. She was excited about it. And right before the deal was going to go live, she lost the TV deal. She got really depressed. She was drinking, didn't want to get out of the bed every day. And one day she pops up, she sees a commercial, and she sees this rocket kicking off 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And after weeks of trying to get out of the bed, she said, you know what? The next morning I'm going to wake up, I'm going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to pop out of the bed. And she leveraged that one story to build an entire brand. There's a lady by the name of Lisa Nichols. Most people have heard of Lisa Nichols and remember The Secret. Lisa Nichols talks about going to an ATM machine and putting her credit card in the ATM machine and not even having enough money in her bank account to be able to withdraw the funds from her bank account. And she was looking to buy diapers. And she talks about how she went home, she wrapped her child in the cloth, and she said to herself, no matter what, I'm going to change my circumstances. And these stories go on with all these major influencers. I mean, we could go across the aisle. We go in the spiritual realm. Joel Osteen, right? Regardless of what your faith or spirituality is, you know, Joel Osteen, we know, is probably one of the biggest and most well-known pastors and speakers out there. He talks about being the cameraman, had no intentions on becoming a pastor. His father passed away. He was asked to go from behind the camera to come on stage. We can't say that those stories don't matter, because those stories are the stories that they have leveraged to be able to build a connection with their community. So the moment you say your story doesn't matter, what you're saying is that connection doesn't matter. And all of us know that that's not true. And so here's the thing. People don't connect with your website. They don't connect emotionally to your LinkedIn profile. They don't connect to your logo, your company logo. They're looking to connect with you. Because at the end of the day, we've heard this over and over again. People love to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And my question for you is, how do they get to know you? How do they get to like you? And how do they get to trust you? They get to know, like, and trust you through your story. So here's the thing that I know. Powerful people ask powerful questions. So as opposed to really saying to myself or even thinking that, wait, my story doesn't matter, but rather, why not ask yourself the question is, how do I find a story that will matter? What story of mine will resonate with my ideal customer and client? What story of mine is worth sharing that my ideal customer, my ideal client is going to feel a level of connection to, and is going to act as a magnet to draw people in? Because here's the only two things I find. Number one, people say that I don't know if I have a story, Andy. And I tell you right now, I'm hoping before our time is up that I'll show you hands down you do have a story. And then the other thing is this, they get caught up in the comparison game. And what is that? Yes. That means that you're like, I wasn't strung out on drugs. I'm not a double amputee. You know, I didn't have all these crazy things happen to me. And so you're comparing your story, right? You're like, you know, and I did that for a while. I was like, oh, I was a straight A student. I graduated summa cum laude. I got my master's degree. And then I would hear stories about people being strung out on drugs and, you know, having a disability and thinking to myself, I don't have a story. And that's not true. What you're doing is you're comparing. But what you have to realize is that there's always going to be people assigned to you. And they're not going to resonate with Andy Henriquez. They're not going to respond to necessarily Dr. Elizabeth's voice, to Yvonne's voice, to Andy's voice. They're going to respond to your voice because of the fact that they feel a connection to your story, your unique individual story. And so when we build and craft these stories, we are looking to find what's the theme, the thing that resonates with me, but also is going to resonate with the people that I'm called to serve. And so don't ever get caught up in the comparison game or being so close to your story that you don't value it. The two things I'll tell you is, number one, you do have a story. And number two, your story absolutely matters. And it is the secret sauce to you building genuine, authentic connection with the people that you're called to serve.
You know, I have goosebumps as you're speaking. I have to
I
tell
love
you,
this.
I so love what you're saying. You know, and we always say this to our audience that before Lisa Nichols or Joel Osteen was Lisa Nichols or Joel Osteen, they were probably in their own head going, I don't have a story to share.
Who wants
Right?
to listen to me?
Who wants to listen to me? And that's what people don't always remember. They think, well, you know, I can can't possibly have a story like you, Dr. Elizabeth. They tell me this all the time. It's like, I have nothing to share. I'm like, of course you do. Of course you do. So I love what you're saying for sure.
I've got to say, I've heard you speak before, Andy, and I will tell everybody you will walk out with two things. Number one, how you will enforce your child buying their first car. When you hear that story, when my son now says, I want a car, I'm like, I got you, because I got the right story. The other thing you will walk out saying is, yes, 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 for sure.
You had us doing yes, 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 the whole retreat.
And I still think that sometimes when I go to do something, I'm like, can I really do that? I'm like, no, Andy would say the only answer is yes, yes, yes. So get off your butt, Yvonne. But you have mentioned before that there are 5 types of stories for influencers. And we know the word influencer is a huge word right now. People are really looking into becoming influencers. So can you give us information on what these stories are?
Yeah. So, people just sort of tend to put all stories in one bucket. But, for us as entrepreneurs, right, influencers, thought leaders, we want to be strategic when we're using and we're sharing the stories. So there's basically 5 different stories. I'll go at a high level very quickly. The first story is what we refer to as the signature story. This is a story that you become known for. It's sort of like your hit record, right? It is the story that you share over and over again. You're doing a Facebook Live, you're doing a podcast, you're doing a webinar. This is a story that you find a way to interweave just so that the people who are your assignment, as I like to call it, the people who should buy your products and services feel some type of a connection with you. So we call that your signature story. And I want to share this with you because I think it's so important. The signature story is the one that I believe is the most important. I have an entire 3-day training, my Master Storyteller Academy, where we help people to craft that signature story. But I do want to tell you that there's basically, for those of you who are saying, I don't know, I still don't buy if I have a story, there are 3 places you're going to look for that signature story. Around significant challenges that you've been through in life. Think about your 3 biggest challenges that you went through in life. I assure you there's a story there, all right? And not only is there a story there, there's a lesson for you, and there's a lesson for your audience. Somebody once said, when you lose, don't lose the lesson, all right? Mm-hmm. The second place that you want to look at and consider are what we refer to as defining moments. There's defining moments, or those moments in your life. You can put a pin in that moment and say there's the before that moment and then the after that moment. There was the before the divorce, after the divorce. There was the before the accident, the after. There's the before the diagnosis, after the diagnosis. The defining moment, there's always a great story there. And then major transitions. In life, there's full of transitions. But for some of you, there's major transitions. You went from working a corporate job to becoming an entrepreneur. You went from being married to being single. You went from being married to becoming a widow. Whatever it might be, there are always going to be those defining moments. And when you look at challenges, transitions, defining moments, you will find a powerful, compelling story. And we refer to that as a signature story. The second type of story is for the entrepreneurs. I know many of you who are listening are entrepreneurs, are aspiring entrepreneurs. And as an entrepreneur, you need to be making offers. Like, you need to be offering your products and your services. It is your responsibility. An offer story is a story that you share so that when you do make an offer, you can get people to see the value, you can overcome their objections, and then create a sense of urgency. Why do people not buy? They didn't see the value, you didn't overcome their objections, and you didn't create a sense of urgency. So an offer story is a story that you tell, and as a result of you telling the story about a client, about somebody you helped, even a personal story, you help them to see the value, you overcome some objections, their objections, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, whatever it might be, and then you create a sense of urgency. The third type of story, you're going to be noticing a pattern. I want to tell you right now, I'm spelling the word solve, just in case you didn't catch it. S, signature story. O, the offer story. L is the landing story. You say, Andy, what in the world is a landing story? Here's the thing. Back in the day, they used to say something like, content is king. Let me tell you something. There's a little old video company by the name of Google. If content is king, Google killed the king. Why? Why? Because I don't care what you talk about. I don't care what you think makes you so amazing. We can go on Google and Google all of that content, more than you and I could tell each other, right? Mm-hmm. So what separates you and I? Is it just our content? No. It's our unique perspective on that content, which is really our stories. So a landing story is just stories that we use so that we can get our points to land better on our customers and our clients. So as opposed to telling them, hey, you should do something, why not tell a story that allows you to drive the point? One of my mentors told me a long time ago, hey, young man, never make a point without telling a story. Never tell a story without making a point. A landing story allows you to make a point through a story. The fourth story is what we refer to as a value proposition story. You know, Yvonne was just talking about a little earlier about a story that her and Dr. Elizabeth heard me share about me getting my first car. I oftentimes will open a presentation about a story about me getting my first car, and it's a really simple story that I try to have fun with, but that story only has one purpose and one purpose only: to get my audience to shake their head and say, you know what? Stories are important. Wow, I just heard Andy share a simple story about how he had to tell his story to be able to get a job so he could pay for the insurance on his car. You know what? Now that I think about it, stories are important. When I do tell stories, my kids tell me stories all the time and they influence me. So the purpose of that story, the value proposition story, is to just get your audience to buy into your big idea early. Why is that important? Because most of us, we're trying to influence people and we go right into teaching and sharing our content, and you haven't even established if people really even care about what you're going to talk about. So the value proposition story gets them to buy in early on whatever it is that you're selling: health, wealth, you know what I mean? Relationship, whatever it might be, get them to buy into the importance of it. It's going to help you with the rest of everything you have to share. And the last part is what we refer to as an expert story. Now, here's the thing. Most of us do know that experts get top dollar in the marketplace. People seek out experts. Dr. Elizabeth is an expert. Yvonne is an expert. That's why their clients seek them out. So when you want to position yourself in the marketplace as an expert, as opposed to just listing your accolades, which is what 99.9% of people do, talk about where they went to school, where they got their degree. Right before we started this podcast, I said, nobody really cares about your bio. So I appreciate you guys reading my bio, but nobody really cares. You want to know why? It's the truth. So an expert story is a story that you share. Maybe it's about a client. Maybe it's about results that you've produced. It's a story that you share. As a result of someone hearing this story, they come to the conclusion themselves, wow, she must be an expert. Wow, he must be an expert. You will have so much more influence if they come to the decision themselves that you're the expert, as opposed to you trying to tell them that you're the expert and listing off where you went to school, what degrees you have. Why not tell a story, and through the story, have them come to the conclusion like, wow, she's an expert because look what she's done for her clients, or look at the results that she's produced in her own life. So those stories: signature story, offer story, landing story, value proposition story, expert story, these are the stories that I help my clients to build out, because these become the tools that they can use whenever they want to. They're going to make an offer, pull out the offer story. Going to do a presentation, use my landing story. Going to be on a podcast, throw in my signature story. Want to position myself higher in the marketplace, throw out my expert story. These are the stories that we use as tools so that we can better position our products and our services.
That was amazing explanation. And everyone that's listening to this program right now, I hope you all taking notes and are getting ready to start putting this all together. I was wondering if you can, in a nutshell, give us a framework of how you help women and men to develop their stories at whatever level that you're seeking to develop your story. How do you even help them to start?
So the primary way that I support, these amazing entrepreneurs is basically through my Master Storyteller Academy, but it's a 3-part framework. The first part is we help them to discover what their story is. For many people, they do have a story, but they're just struggling to figure out exactly what is their quote unquote signature story. So I shared earlier framework. We have them focus on what are your challenges, what are their transitions, what are their defining moments. And we actually take them through a process on our clarity call to figure out of all of the stories that they have, let's discover which one you should work on. Now that we know what that story is, the second part is we develop it. What should be in that story? How do we create a universal theme? How do we allow you to connect emotionally without trauma dumping, right? Without leaving people in the basement? How do we get you to share the story succinctly in 3 minutes or less? Because oftentimes that's all the time that you're going to have. So we develop it. And the third part is delivery. We do a lot of opportunities for people to practice and get feedback, because I believe that the reason why a lot of people don't tell their story is because they're lacking clarity and they're lacking confidence. We do that by helping them with their delivery, which is basically putting them in a safe environment where there's trained ears, where they can get positive reinforced feedback. And we help them to be able to ultimately craft that signature story. And why? So that they can get out there with more confidence, more clarity, better talk about their products and their services. Here's the thing we know, regardless of what field you're in, you know that you would have more traction if you were a better communicator and you could better talk about your products and your services, period. We know that across the board, and the story is the best way to do that.
I have another question on this. You talk about the Master Storyteller Academy. I know, and we talked a little bit about this offline. I'm interested in you sharing, how are you doing this through COVID? Because I know your course is 3 days? It's intense.
Yeah.
It's, so how are you doing this?
So just like everybody listening in right now, I mean, we got it. When COVID came, we were like, it'll be for a month, maybe 2 months. Everything's gonna be good. And then we were like, wait a second, this thing's not going anywhere. So our 3-day training was a live training. And so we had to pivot, right? Like so many people listening right now, whether you wanted to or not, we had to pivot. And so we decided to make our training virtual, still live, but it's virtual. But what happened is at first we're like, oh man, how are we going to make this thing happen? And then we found all of these like really amazing blessings, because before, people had to jump on an airplane, they had to go book a hotel room. And so now they no longer have to fly in, they no longer have to book a hotel room. From the comfort of their home office, they're able to join us. But then we were like, how can we still bring the magic that happens? Like, how do we bring the energy? How do we bring the interaction? So we were really, really intentional about figuring out, like, leveraging breakout sessions where people are still partnering up and being able to share and tell their stories. We have boatload of fun. There's a lot of dancing. They're still receiving the feedback and so forth. And so, like I was sharing with you, recently we've had people join us from Tokyo, from Hawaii, from St. Lucia, from Canada, from the UK. And it's been absolutely amazing. But the thing that I'm most proud of is how we were still able to keep the integrity of the training and maintain the ultimate outcome, right? The transformation that happens for people over those 3 days, even in a virtual format. Now, I can tell you, it's very intentional. It's very strategic. We had to bring the energy. We do pre-calls with people to get them prepared for our 3 days together. But there's nothing like seeing people come in on day one, lacking confidence, lacking clarity, not being sure on what their story is. And then on day 3, people say, man, Andy, were those paid actors or actresses? Because I can't believe how much more confident they are, how they have their stories. And the best thing for me is to watch people leave our training and then find out that now they're finally writing the book. They're doing more Facebook Lives. They increase their prices because they have more confidence. They are putting themselves out there more. They're jumping on podcasts. They're reaching out to, Dr. Elizabeth and Yvonne and saying, hey, can I be a podcast guest? Because now they have the confidence and they have something to share. So it's been a blessing. I'm going to be honest with you. We are in no rush to go back to.
I was just going to ask you, are you going to stay on Zoom? Are you going to stay virtual forever?
We're going to stay virtual as long as we can. Let's put it that way. We're going to stay virtual as long as we can.
I hear you. Yvonne and I have the same story, so I totally understand that for sure. That's awesome.
We're absolutely loving it. So I know that you have a giveaway and it's about your storyteller quiz. So give our audience, and I'll post this in the show notes for everyone about the giveaway. So give us some information. What exactly is a storyteller quiz?
Yeah, so here's the thing. We've been talking about stories this whole time. And just like you've probably done like personality assessments, just about all of us. And just like, the GPS that we use on our cell phones or whatever, before you can get to your destination, one of the first things we got to do is sort of pinpoint, like, where are you right now? And so I've got this really cool, fun storyteller quiz. It'll take you nothing but like maybe a minute and a half. And what it does is it's going to ask you a couple of questions to figure out right now, what's your current storytelling style, right? All of us are telling stories. Most of us, I hate to say it, are not the best at telling stories because we're going through chronological sequence of events. We're like, this happened and then this happened. We're all over the place. We're putting too many details. This storyteller quiz lets you know naturally what type of storyteller you are. So there's the evangelist, heart-centered storyteller. There's the marketer that's good at getting people's attention. There's the juggler. It's hard for them to keep their thoughts together, right? There's the reporter, very factual, detail-oriented. And so the first thing we got to figure out is, where are we, right? And so what's really cool is when you take the quiz, you're going to get a customized video response with me talking directly to you. Say, hey, these are your quiz results. This is the type of storyteller that you are. This is the good things about this storytelling style, and these are the places where you can improve. And in addition to that, you're going to unlock one of my free trainings, the Story Finder method, that's going to help you to sort of pinpoint what your signature story is. So it's really, really cool. I'm going to tell you exactly how you can take the quiz. So easiest way for you to take the quiz, you can head over to storytellerquiz.com. Once again, that is storytellerquiz.com. Now, if you are one of those people that you are real cool on technology, the other thing that you could do is you can text the word story. So go into your cell phone right now, like you're about to send somebody a text message. Just put the word story, nothing else. And you're going to send the word story to the telephone number 954-278-3701. I'm going to say it one more time. You're going to text the word story to 954-278-3701. 3701. So whether you go to storytellerquiz.com or you text the word story to 954-278-3701, they're both going to take you in the same direction. Just want to make it easy for you, whether you want to go into the web browser and do that, or if you want to just text in the word story. But it's super fun. As a matter of fact, let Dr. Elizabeth know, let Yvonne know what your quiz results. And definitely, I'm at Andy Henriquez on all social media, except on Instagram. I'm at Show Up For Your Life. When you take the quiz, definitely let me know you took the quiz. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, if you got some value from it. Definitely let me know. I love hearing from people after they've taken the quiz.
That's awesome. Andy, say your Instagram handle again, please.
Yeah, my Instagram handle is at Show Up For Your Life. Show Up For Your Life.
Awesome. I'm just starting to do Instagram, so I'm trying to get everybody's handle, so you'll see me following you soon.
I love it.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. So I always love to end our show with this question, which is, what do you hope your legacy to be?
Wow. So when I think about legacy, I think about something that is going to outlive you. And when I think about legacy, I think about contribution. And, part of my legacy is I would like for people who are my assignment. And I realize that I may not be able to touch everybody, but I do believe for all of us that there are people who are assigned to us. And what I hope is that the people who are my assignment, that there's two things that they're going to reflect back on, is that they're going to say that when I crossed paths with that guy, Andy Henriquez, he helped me to have a higher and bigger vision of what was possible for me. So one of the things that I really value during my Master Storyteller Academy and when I work with people, that beyond their story, I realize it's not just about the message, but it's about the messenger. Because your message is only going to travel so far if you don't have full belief in the messenger. So I am big on growing the messenger. I'm big on helping people to hold a bigger vision for themselves. And then the second thing is equipping people to be able to have a message, just something that they're able to share that's going to allow them to be able to transfer their beliefs, their convictions to other people. And so what I'm hoping my legacy is going to be is that I help people to have a bigger and higher vision for themselves. And I empowered them, gave them more confidence and more clarity because I helped them be able to have this message that they're going to use to be able to impact and transform lives.
Well, my friend, you're doing all of that.
And then some.
And then some. So
Thank you.
you're right on track with your vision and purpose in this on this planet. So thank you for doing all that you're doing. You know, the Lipstick Attitude podcast is about sharing your story. Lipstick attitude is getting up and putting on your war paint and getting out there and sharing your journey so others can benefit. So I think that this program certainly highlights the opportunity for women to find their voice. And I so appreciate you, Andy, for giving women the platform and the tools for them to be able to do that. Because, you know, Yvonne and I, we through our foundation, through Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation, through the podcast, through our practice, our mission is to really create those opportunities and to bring partners to the table. And we really see you as a partner in this venture of ours. So I so appreciate you. So I think we've already given out your contact information through the other question, but do you have any other numbers that you want to put out there before we finalize the program?
Yeah, no, the thing I would just say for everybody who's been listening in, if you've been getting so much value, you know, from Dr. Elizabeth and Yvonne, you know, pay it forward. You know, don't commit what I like to refer to as the sin of the desert. And you say, Andy, what is that? The sin of the desert is that, like, you've got a thirst, you got a desire to take your life to the next level. And you have found a reservoir. Like you have found out about this podcast. You found out about these two amazing women and they help to fill your cup. But the worst thing you want to do is, like, your cup's being filled and your thirst is being quenched. And then there's other people out there that are thirsty. Like, they have dreams, they have goals, they have desires. And you forgot to mention to them about this amazing podcast. Like, not that it was intentional or anything, but you've committed the sin of the desert. And so I'm just inviting you, like, pay it forward, like with this episode and all the other previous episodes that you've enjoyed, like, spread the word, make sure that people are hearing these messages so that we can help other amazing women to be able to have their lipstick attitude and show up more powerfully every day in their business and in their lives. So don't forget, don't commit the sin of the desert, pay it forward, spread the word, make sure people hear this particular podcast and all of the other previous ones that you've enjoyed. And make sure you don't keep Dr. Elizabeth and Yvonne a secret. Like, tell people now.
Tell people.
Do it.
Yeah, I always say, like, when you go to a restaurant and you tell people that restaurant was awesome, that's what you need to do when you find something that fills your cup and you want to pay it forward. When you hear about Andy, when you hear about the Lipstick Attitude podcast, when you find Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation that is empowering women and children and doing amazing community work, let people know about it, because that's, you know, together we really are stronger. And someone out there may be longing, praying for this message. That's really how I see it. Someone out there may really need to hear this message today, and you may be able to be the conduit to change someone's life. So thank you, Andy, for sharing. Thank you for sharing your stories and for inspiring us to want to share our story. We really appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me hang out with two of my favorite ladies. I appreciate it.
And
thank you for kicking up the energy on our Monday, Andy.
On a Monday, absolutely. And if you like what you hear, guys and ladies, please text 44321 SSL Women and make a donation. That's how we support this podcast. That's how we support the work that we do. Again, 44321 SSL Women with an E, and give any donation will help to support the work that we're doing in helping women find a voice. So thank you. And let's go ahead and whip out our lipsticks. I know, Andy, you don't have one, so you'll just have to watch.
That's okay.
This is our war paint.
I love it.
This is what we wear to get out there and face the world and absolutely share our stories of resilience and strength and courage. We can do this, and we will do this together. So no matter what, ladies, put on your lipstick attitude. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Yvonne. See you
Bye.
soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody.